What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod SCUM. This right here is the podcast where we dive into the deepest, darkest, murkiest waters with a plethora. That means a lot of legendary guests. I am, of course, your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the number one scumbag, Rex Ruger, number one scumbag with 3 X's in his name. Get that straight. You might also know me as AKA the King of Sleaze, which I am. AKA the hair metal high priest, which I am. Got my ordainment card right in my wallet. Most importantly, though, AKA Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. That's right. DNA testing almost where we want it, and we will prove what we've always known just by looking with our peepers. That you're looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band, just smoked a lot of grams. I'm your ice cream man, got a million fans, Mr. Wop Bop Bop Wop Bam Bam Shazam. Hot damn. Feeling good, and of course, everybody out there is looking good, which is always most important on our side of the fence. That is, of course, made possible by. Let's put the X in Rex and get yourself real sexy. Industrial strength and light for you hair diabetics. Spray responsibly, kids. Coming to you as always from the Lush Lavender Lounge of Love, joined as always by the Keith Hernandez puppet, who might have plenty to say tonight, and if he wants to, he will. He's earned that right as a World Series champion. This is, of course, the No Frills podcast. You get no frills because you get plenty of thrills, and that's the privilege of looking at these mugs. These mugs. Look at us. The holy triumvirate of beauty. So tonight we got ourselves a good one here, man. It's about to get real up in here. We got ourselves a good interview tonight. Like to remind people out there that I am still looking for players for my passion project, Love Sword, the glam sleaze metal band that will take over the world. You can't have the front man spot because that's already off the table. Serious inquiries only. Get at me, dog. Get at me. Our guest is here, though, so no more fucking around on Pod SCUM. We're getting down to it. Hey, what's up, man? I didn't want to do the, as soon as you popped in, I didn't want to do the whole, I really wanted to sing Hey Jude. And you must probably get that a lot, so I'm just like, yeah, he's probably fucking heard that a million times, you know, like.
Yeah, my whole life, man.
Yeah, where people are just coming up to you and just like singing Hey Jude. That would be awesome, though. At least at least you've got a great song. A lot of guys don't even get their names in songs.
Yeah. Well, when I got married, we had karaoke at the reception.
Yeah.
One of my friends did the whole like 8.5-minute version of Hey Jude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was funny for like a minute and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it gets a little, and then you realize this has got another 6 minutes to go.
Yeah.
This is for my audience, Jude Sisk from Stone Nomads, straight out of Texas. What's going on down in Texas? What's the temperature down there right now?
It's pretty nice, man. It's like 76 degrees. It's a little overcast, but yesterday was perfect. It got up to 80. The sun was shining.
Nice. I'm in upstate New York. We're not there yet. Still going out warming the car up in the morning before work. When that stops, then you know that you've made a serious step towards spring/summer, man. But so you play the bass and sing. Are you lead vocals on any of these songs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sing about like half the songs that we do live. On the album, I did 2 of the songs. On the album Fields of Doom, and then on the EP we did, I did 1.5 songs.
Yeah. And are you one of these kind of guys? Because it's I don't know how much wear and tear you're putting on your throat, but are you a guy who like lives and dies by any set of rules or throat preparation? Or are you just a guy that can just go in and just hit it?
Yeah, I don't have a routine, man. And I just kind of go out there and I do it. I've been doing it a long time, so I know not to push it too hard. I have to, space it out for an hour or 5 minutes, just kind of depending on what it is. So I don't just go out there and go crazy.
Right.
Song.
Do people automatically think, man, like when you get the labels and, I've ranted about this on here before where everything's got to be put in these neat little boxes and every genre of music seems to have 100 fucking subgenres. But like when you hear like doom, sludge, stoner, all pretty much down, kind of downer terms, you know what I mean? Do people automatically think or have a perception of what the music is going to sound like, or that they can't enjoy themselves listening to this type of music? Or is it just us demented folk who listen to it and find enjoyment out of it?
That's a good question.
I mean, when someone sees you and you tell them that you're in a doom metal band, or however you approach it, I like just saying you're in a rock band, which is what a lot of purists obviously would like to say. But I mean, how do you approach it?
Well, I classify us as doom, but well, a couple of different things. Like to your point of what does the average person say? Like when I'm walking down the street and someone sees me, when I say doom, they're like, what? They automatically have visions of like Satan and that. And I mean that's not really us. We're not like that. But when I run into other metalheads, it's a totally different story. They're like, oh, doom. What do you mean by doom? Are you thinking like Pentagram, or are you thinking Paradise Lost, or
right?
So
what are you thinking when you start this band up? Because you guys are pretty new. You've only got the one album out, 2022, Fields of Doom, which is fucking awesome, man. And it's gonna slip my mind right now because I want to remember it, man. But the instrumental that's in there, gorgeous. What's the instrumental?
Winds of Barren Lands.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely a beautiful song. It's refreshing sometimes. Does that cause a big stir in your camp? Or is it an issue with bands where they sit around and think instrumental track or no instrumental track? Because I think instrumental track, and I automatically think here's something that most people are going to skip.
Well, I mean, maybe that's the case, but I'm the type of person, and John, our guitar player, is the type of person, man. We sit down and we want to listen to an album.
Yeah,
right? We're not really a skip to random tracks, or I'm just gonna hit the highlights. There's some albums like that. There are 3 or 4 good songs. You just want to hit those, but we try to think of more of an album. And so there's an atmosphere you want to cultivate, right?
Yeah.
And so the instrumental thing, it was a no-brainer. Well, one of the reasons it was a no-brainer is because we play it in the set while we're switching guitars.
That's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, because we play in 2 different tunings. Like we have standard E tuning, and then so we'll do 3 or 4 songs like that, and then we have to switch to our B guitars. And rather than people just watch us meander around stage and put on guitars and make sure we play that song, and hopefully we have a guy working the lights who will, dim the stuff down.
Yeah.
While we do that.
So the show goes on. Yeah. No interruption in it. So being a new band, like where does a new band go? Like where do you put your focus when you're trying to accelerate your career or get notoriety? Because that format used to be simple back in the day. I'm 50 years old, so I remember bands would just get a record contract. They'd get seen by somebody, they'd get a record contract, they'd get funded a tour and all this great stuff or whatever. But when you drop an album like this, what's the first thing? Thinking about a follow up, getting on a great tour. Like how do you navigate a new band?
Yeah, well, so I'm in my 40s, and I started playing music really, really young, and so I was coming around at the tail end of what you're talking about. Nowadays, I know for us, what we started doing was we started preparing. Like we had an independent label, so we had a label like backing us and promoting us. So we started contacting PR companies, like, hey, this album's going to come out. We need you to get out there and ahead of it, and start some promotion. We were in a few magazines kind of here and there, but a lot of it, and I was not this guy until we started the band, is social media. Getting on Instagram, getting on Facebook, interacting with people. That's a big chunk of it. And I'm learning that game as quickly as I can.
I unfortunately, I kind of know, like when I put the episodes up, and it's unfortunate because I think of everybody on here that I interview, not to sound pretentious, but I've reached out to them in some way, shape, or form because I love or have loved whatever they're doing or whatever. And of course, you just want to see everybody get flooded with views. And unfortunately, it just doesn't happen. Where like I'll see a band that's great or somebody that I really had a great conversation with, and it just doesn't get where I want it to be. But then I look at it like, hey, if 100 people like view our interview, man, maybe 50 of them go take some action. Maybe all of them go take some action. They start streaming and listening to your stuff. And then where does it go from there? Then, they each tell another 10 people, what I mean? Like you really kind of got to go back to it almost feels like the Pony Express, you're going out and getting them like one at a time, but
yeah, it's an interesting version of word of mouth.
Yeah.
someone sees a post or a clip, or they go on YouTube and if they catch the interview and they're like, oh wow, this is pretty cool, I'll go tell my friends. It's not because we're independent, it's not like there's a video on MTV and 150,000 people are seeing it today,
Right. But I like to think of it though, and I always, when I put my guest episode up, I always send them a link and obviously encourage them to feel free to share it wherever they would like. And, I think it is kind of a good tool for like advertisement sometime though, too, because, it's doing so much more than what a publicist could do. Like in a matter of just pressing a button, sharing it, it could just reach so many people, globally. It's mind boggling, it's.
Yeah. I mean, I got on the train late. I wish.
Yeah, I did too. Me too.
I wish I would have been more savvy, like when we put the band together. But it is pretty cool, man. I've been able to make connections just from posting stuff online or liking someone else's stuff. Made connections all over the U.S. and now getting some going in the U.K. That the technology made that easier, and so that's been really cool.
Yeah. And you also never know, like, out of those people that you're reaching, who could potentially be, that next super fan who may really take a ball and run with it and start a fan club, or really want to, or a very enthusiastic fan that just really helps catapult even more. Maybe one of them, maybe 100 of them. It's who knows? Sky's really the limit. I get discouraged sometimes too, like seeing the subscriptions or the views kind of crawling. Everybody wants that overnight. Like as much as we say we're willing to work for it, we'd all do just love to have it like that.
100%.
You'd be lying if you said you didn't.
Right. But the key word there that you used was work. I mean, it's work to go out there and promote it. But it works out, man, because a lot of the regional shows that we've done, we made connections online, and someone's out of Georgia and they're touring through Texas, and they're like, hey, you want to do a couple dates with us? Yeah, sure. Let's go. Let's play Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. Do it together. We're about to do a run in Louisiana. Same thing. I reached out to a band. I was like, hey, I like your music, and they reached out to me and they're like, hey, you want to do some dates in Louisiana? Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's my home state. I want to go back there and play.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Louisiana as your home state, because obviously, hearing your music could certainly draw a lot of comparisons to a lot of those NOLA bands. You can hear it certainly in the music. You can hear elements of Down, Crowbar, I Hate God. All the ones that we know, like from that scene. So obviously that bleeds into the music. Huge fans of those bands, I assume.
Yeah, John more so. Like we kind of had a meeting of the minds. Like I was really into the '80s doom, like Pentagram and my name, Candlemass, stuff like that. That early.
Yeah.
And he was a big fan of Down and Crowbar and Acid Bath and stuff. And I like those guys too. I'm actually a big Crowbar fan, but he was much more versed on the NOLA scene back in the day than I was. So he introduced me to some stuff, and I introduced him to like Cathedral and things like that. So that's kind of where we started getting our sound.
I'll tell you what, man, I always love those aforementioned bands from that area. But, having started doing this podcast last year, I really, really, truly see that it's not only a great metal community, but I've had the fortune to have some of the guys like, from different bands from there. Had Matt on from Crowbar not that long ago. Had Jimmy Bauer from I Hate God. Just, really great guys too. Not guys that are so pretentious that they won't come on a podcast. You know what I mean? It just, still really down to earth, grounded guys making just fucking kick-ass music, and just, you don't got to go through a publicist or this or that to have a fucking conversation with them. You know what I mean? Like, I will get that a lot. I don't want to mention anybody's names, but people will get back to you and be like, and I understand the business aspect of it, but here, reach out to this email and talk to management or this or that. I only want to have a conversation. That's all. I mean, well, why can't we figure that out like we did? I mean, it's kind of, I get it that I can't just pick up a fucking phone and get a hold of Bono. I understand that, but I mean, if I'm finding you on Facebook Messenger, I mean, come on, management.
Yeah, I've been surprised a couple times myself, but I'm sure you've had the same thing, like more hits than misses.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
because I was looking at some of the people you've interviewed, and you mentioned Matt from Crowbar and stuff, and
Great guys.
I'm a boxing fan too, so I saw recently Robinson.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to be able to reach out to those guys, and a lot of times, man, I'll get a message for I'll send one to Bobby Liebling from Pentagram, and then he'll message back, and he's like, "Hey, okay, I'll check this out. Thanks for reaching." Hey, cool.
I have reached out to Bobby, and I've actually even had a phone conversation with him, but unfortunately, man, he seems to be locked out of all his Google accounts. Google Meet obviously is a Google application, so he's been a little fucked there. I have had Minnesota Pete on though, who was a fucking awesome guest. Shout out to Minnesota Pete, because he's the real deal right there. Always putting up shots of his daughter too. He's raising her right, much like I do with my grandkids. Corrupt them at a young age with this rock and roll stuff, and they'll be fine. I read some article on Facebook not that long ago that they said that people who listen to extreme metal were some of the most grounded, articulate, and just all around good people. They had their shit together, so to speak. Which obviously the media would probably paint a different picture, but
yeah, my wife actually sent me. It probably was the same article. She's like, "You're never gonna believe this." And she sent it to me. I was like, I totally believe it, because I go to metal shows and I meet these people.
Great camaraderie on that scene. Yeah. Is your wife into metal? Is your wife into the same kind of music? No. Yeah. See, me and my wife can agree on some stuff, but if I go too extreme, anything past Metallica, she's out.
Yeah, I'm kind of like in the 90s and early 2000s, my wife and I were really involved in like punk rock scene and stuff, and she's still into like punk rock music, which I am too, but I skewed heavy too, and she never kind of made that leap from listening to like Black Flag and the Descendants to now I'm gonna listen to Slayer.
Right. Black Flag does go pretty fucking hard though, man. I mean, I give her credit there, man. She's certainly not. That's certainly not like any wimpy music by any means. I mean, first of all, how early on in your life did you know that music was going to be your career path? Any aspirations of doing anything else before this? I know you're not probably doing it obviously full time. I assume that you probably have like a job to support being a musician. It seems like everybody's nowadays, but I mean, was that your singular focus when you were young, be a rock star?
Yeah. I played my first show. Live show at a legendary venue here in Houston that just got bulldozed a couple of years ago. It's called Fitzgerald's, and I was 14. I couldn't drive. My dad had to drive me to the venue, and there was this group of guys that I started this first band with that we've just always continued playing music. Now we're kind of scattered all over the U.S. One of them eventually became a rock star, but it was cool. I mean, I started it very young, and I just continued it. I've never stopped.
Yeah, you can't just gloss over something like that, though. One of them turned out to be a rock star. Are you at liberty to divulge this name?
Oh yeah, he's a part of this like pop rock band called the All American Rejects.
Okay.
They've sold millions of records, man.
Yes.
Mike Kinnerty, he's the rhythm guitar player, and we started playing music when we were 13 together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever think sometimes though, man, like what was it that first got you really committed to this specific, call it whatever you want, genre of music that you're playing right now? If you don't want to call it rock and roll, the terms we mentioned, doom, stoner metal, that kind of stuff. Who was the first band that really got its hooks in you that really made you like that? Was it Pentagram?
Pentagram was up there, but really it was Black Flag, those later Black Flag albums that get pretty sludgy and slower.
Yeah.
And so I really liked like My War and Loose Nut quite a bit. And so that kind of got me into St. Vitus, and then it just kind of spread from there.
Yeah. And is it hard sometimes, like when you're trying to start a band, to reach out to like, I imagine it's probably not easy just to go out and say, hey, I'm looking for other guys to start like a doom or sludge. I mean, it's obviously you got to be in that to really love it, because obviously finding commercial success in any kind of extreme metal is extremely fucking difficult. Is that hard to find band members?
Not right now, actually. I've kind of come in and out of the scene. I've always played music. At times it was really difficult, but right now we have a pretty, it's not a big community here, but an active kind of doom stoner scene here in Houston. So when John and I, the guitar player, decided to put something together, when we put the word out for a drummer, it actually wasn't that difficult to find somebody. So that's really cool.
I think one of the most important things that you've got, though, man, I believe it's almost essential. And, you know, obviously me being cut from the cloth of greatness and being a great front man myself, I would have to say, man, that your front man fits the bill really good because he looks very terrifying. I imagine that's got to be right. I mean, bald, big beard, you know what I mean? Like that's the very Viking look to him. That's the kind of guy that I would say would be, you know, if I had to draw him up quick, like a version of who I would think would be singing for a doom sludge band. He's him.
Yeah, man. He fits the bill. He's a stocky guy, you know.
Yeah.
Tattooed up. And
I mean, if you didn't have the St. Vitus shirt on, man, I think you might be a guy just doing my taxes. You know what I mean? Like you don't look stonery and sludgy, or you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think that's a compliment.
It is. Yeah. So this Fields of Doom album, I'm very curious about when you guys get together and go in and create. Someone bringing the lion's share of these ideas in, or is it a collaborative effort? Is everybody inputting ideas? Somebody show up with a lot of songs?
So John and I write the songs, and usually what happens is when we write a song, we write pretty much everything. Like we write the guitar, the bass, the drums. John uses a drum machine to record the drums. I have an electronic drum kit, and so we demo everything, and then we bring it. Like, this is my song, but it doesn't come like 100% ready. It's like, this is my vision, and then everyone gets to kind of add revisions to it, or kind of, okay, this is the drum beat I was thinking. What's your interpretation of this drum beat? This is like a place where I think a guitar solo should be. You play a guitar solo that, you know, that's up to you. So, and John kind of does the same thing. He demos everything out, brings it, and he's like, okay, play this bass line or play something better.
Right. That's actually an interesting way to go about it, though, right? Because that you know, you're holding yourself with that, you know, with that kind of protocol, you're holding yourself to a very high standard. You know, play something this good or better. I mean, that's really raising the bar. You know.
Yeah, I think John and I have played music on and off for probably 25 years. Yeah. So I have a good rapport. Like, we haven't been in bands like that whole time. It's kind of when we've been in the same city at the same time, we've started bands, and we kind of lived all over the US, but when we connected, we'd start a band up. And so he's a great guitar player, and so I have a lot of respect for him. And he really likes the songs I write. I'm a pretty good bass player, so it's a lot of mutual respect.
Yeah,
that's it's cool, you know. We can say to each other like, "Hey, that riff is not as good as what you normally do. Do something different. You know, you need this better." That's actually how the whole band started. Was John moved to Houston, and he wrote some songs, and he's like, I really have this vision for a sludgy doom band, and here's the songs I wrote. And I said, hey, he had like 5 songs. I said, the first song is exactly what you were talking about. These other 4 songs sound nothing like the vision you described to me. You might want to go back to the drawing board on those, man.
Yeah.
So, okay. And we were just sitting there drinking beers, talking about it. And so he's like, well, what would you do here? And so we started talking, and he's like, well, why don't we just start another band? Like, all right, man, sounds good. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, hey, and I don't say this on here very often, and I don't have 10 million subscribers by any means, man. But you know, I wish I did, so people could hear more about a lot of these great upcoming bands. You know, your own band included, man. But this Fields of Doom album, I'm saying it, man. Fucking masterpiece, dude. I fucking love it. For one, man, I love it. I don't know, like whatever the reviews are nowadays, 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever. I mean, it's fucking phenomenal, man. I think it's great. And shout out these guys who are on it with you. Who's the guy playing guitar on this album? I must know this fella's name.
His name is John Koski. Cosky.
Yeah. I think I have reached out to him actually to come on here too. And I think I got speaking with you more. But I'm telling you, man. So he's singing and playing the guitar at the same time.
Yes.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I mean, those guitar solos on this album are just fucking phenomenal, man. Just the right amount of distortion on them. I mean, they fit the songs really, really well. I want to ask you about the bass, though. Why the bass? Is it something you gravitated to towards young? Is it out of necessity because you needed a bass player?
Yeah.
Or you always loved the 4 strings?
No, it was way back when I first started playing. I was originally a guitar player. I'm pretty good at playing guitar, but there were just so many times there would be a room full of guitar players and like, man, I wish someone played the bass.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll pick up the bass. And so I've, as necessity is called, I played bass in a lot of bands over the years, and it just kind of, that has become more and more of my focus as time has gone on. So I pretty much am a bass player nowadays.
So, well, I guess then you can answer this. Then it's being that you were a formerly. Usually, I just ask it based on what the instrument the person plays. But any influences, or just guys who play their instrument, you know, where you'll listen to them all the time. Wow, when that guy plays guitar, I fucking listen. When that guy plays bass, who are those kind of guys for you?
The biggest influence, number one influence on both my bass playing, singing, and then kind of separately guitar playing is the band Thin Lizzy. Like, dude, I love Phil and his songwriting, his vocals, his bass playing fits the music so well. You know, sometimes flashy, sometimes he hangs back, and then he always had good guitar players around him. So Thin Lizzy is like, it's just had a huge influence on me, and I still listen to them all the time. I literally have every album on LP from Fighting On, and then I have them all downloaded from Fighting On my phone, so I can listen to it at any moment.
I'm so glad you said that, man, because, and I myself will listen to them avidly. Also love the fact that they happen to be from Ireland. That's a bonus too. But I was just listening to, and I think it was one of their live albums the other night, man. But just how well what they did on vinyl, you know, parlayed, transition to the stage, you know, amazing live sound that they were able to get. I mean, that's very rare for a band to sound that almost perfect live.
Yeah. I've got both live and Live and Dangerous.
Oh, that's a masterpiece.
Yeah, some BBC stuff. So yeah, they were able to pull it off live, man. It's a shame I wasn't around. Well, I mean, I was alive, but not old to see them live. Yeah. By the way, I dig the Ireland connection too, man. I got a chance to study over there for a while when I was in college, and it was a tremendous time.
Yeah, beautiful over there. It is. So what was it about Thin Lizzy in particular, though? I mean, obviously Phil is a phenomenal bass player, man, but because very few people bring them up, and I think that they're criminally underrated. I saw a list flash by me the other day on social media of people that have been snubbed by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Whether or not that really makes a big difference, or if it's a running joke, or if anybody even really gives a shit about being in that facility, you know, I don't know how meaningful it is to artists right now. But I thought I remember them being on this list, which boggles my mind.
Yeah, I don't understand it either, man, because I don't know what to say. Yeah, Phil is a great songwriter. The guitar harmonies that Scott Gorham and whoever was the other guy playing it are just, they're so catchy, but yet they're still intricate. And anyone who plays guitar should be a huge Thin Lizzy fan.
Yeah, I just wanted you to elaborate on it, because you have played the guitar and the bass, and you did stretch out like what you meant by saying those guitar harmonies. I get what you're saying, man. Like it did always seem like it always sounded like they had two guitar players, almost like playing as like one person.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that whole guitar harmony thing has always been a big influence on me. And when we're actually recording 2 different albums right now. When the 3rd album comes out, which is probably due in January, there'll be some guitar harmony stuff on that, man. Nice.
So I'm glad you brought up releasing these albums. Do you guys conscientiously as a band have sat down and decided like the way that you want to release music in terms of like the format, where obviously the market's gotten to be very singles driven again? people doing EPs, people still doing long plays. Do you guys have a focus on, or a right answer to yourselves of what the best way is to put your music out?
I don't know the best way, but I can tell you what we're gonna do.
Okay. What are you gonna do?
So we released, Fields of Doom. I think it was August.
Yeah.
We did this little Fiery Sabbath extended single in January to just stay fresh and keep our name out there. We've got this second album that we're about to put out. When we put that out, we're going to put out a couple teaser singles first, and then somewhere around July, August, we'll release the album. We'll do digital and we'll release it on vinyl at the same time.
Yeah.
One of the things that we didn't realize until we really started playing a lot of shows was how many people. I thought I was just the nerd that bought vinyl, but
right.
There are a ton of people out there buying vinyl. People are always asking us at the shows, "Why don't you have LPs?" I go, "I don't know. Good question."
Good questions.
Yeah, so we'll do that in the summer, probably August again, and then do another like single teaser in the fall, winter, leading up to the January release of album number 3, which again it'll be on all the digital platforms, and it's going to be vinyl again.
And so you guys being based out of Texas, how does it work in terms of touring? Like obviously you mentioned you're doing a lot of regional dates, but how does it work in terms of like what is the goal to really gain more exposure? I think we even talked about this at the top of the interview, and then I don't know if we really actually came to a conclusion, but is getting on a big tour important? And how do you go about doing that? Does somebody got to see you and like what you do, or that's kind of the right answer? Yeah,
man. Some of these some of these companies with the big that run the big tours, man, they've got to see you, and we don't have the funds to do like a big United States 40-day tour. So we're doing a lot of regional things, and we're actually going to be doing some fly-in stuff. Because John, the guitar player, his day job is working in sales, but he does sales all over the southern half of the United States, California,
right?
Arizona, Texas, Florida, up to about the midpoint of the U.S. So he's setting some stuff up where we're going to fly into like Vegas and do some. I think the beginning of next year we'll do Vegas and some California dates, and then come back in September. We're probably flying out to like Florida. We'll be doing Orlando and Jacksonville and Savannah, Georgia, and I think maybe Atlanta.
Nice.
So we're kind of doing that stuff until hopefully the right people see us and we can jump on that next Crowbar or COC tour.
Yeah, there you go. That's the ticket right there. Yeah. Yep. Ordinarily, Keith Hernandez puppet back here, former New York Met Keith Hernandez, would normally write a check immediately if he likes your band and fund your tour, man. But he's blown most of his savings on, what. I mean, it's a Colombian thing, I think.
Yeah, Peruvian marching powder, something like that. Yeah,
he likes the booger sugar a little too much. So you mentioned that you're a boxing fan. Did you happen to catch? How deep of a boxing fan are you? Casual or?
Casual recently, but anything before about 2010, I was deep into it, man.
What about the UFC? Are you more of a boxing guy? I'm more of a boxing guy.
I follow the UFC as well.
I'm trying to get into it more because I do see that it's kind of a little more of the future of where combat sports seems to be going. But I'm a purist at heart, so I do love the boxing, man. But yeah, you did. So even going back in your history, who was your favorite fighter? Was there a guy that was like your guy that you pulled for all the time?
Dude, loved Arturo Gatti.
All right.
I spent every nickel and dime that I owned in 2002 to fly up to Atlantic City to see Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward's second fight.
Oh man! Even just to be at any of those fights, 30 rounds of the most legendary boxing, and the thing that makes those most iconic is both those guys were just warriors. There was never any belts on the line in any of those 3 fights. They just beat the shit out of each other for us, just beat the shit out of each other for the entertainment of it.
Yeah, it's funny. At the time they were like 2 of my favorite boxers because I had first seen Mickey Ward on the Oscar De La Hoya Pernell Whitaker undercard. He fought the guy Alfonso Sanchez and got his ass kicked for 7 rounds straight and he landed a total of like 20 punches that whole fight, but one of them left hook to the liver.
Was that infamous liver shot got him. Yeah.
Knocked
I
out.
met Mickey. I met Mickey. The Boxing Hall of Fame is only about 15 minutes away from me. And when you go there on Hall of Fame weekend, it's quite nice because a lot of the former boxers are just walking the grounds up there, you know, signing stuff, taking pictures. And Mickey's a great guy. I mean, very fan accessible. You know, I mean, he's very fortunate and a very interesting guy because, I mean, ordinarily you wouldn't think that a guy who finishes with a record of like 37-11, which in boxing is really not super great. But then Mark Wahlberg plays you in a movie, and I mean, you know, he did pretty good for himself and really made the most of what God gave him. I mean, really talented guy.
Yeah, man. I think before ESPN Friday Night Fights folded, he had fought on it like 25 or 27. Oh. Ridiculous. And I should have set this phone up in a different spot, man, because over here on the wall, since we're talking boxing, I've got a photo of Jake LaMotta knocking Sugar Ray Robinson out of the ring, autographed by Jake LaMotta. I've got Jack Dempsey knocking Luis Angel Firpo over here, and I've got a Mickey Ward signed boxing glove over there.
Nice. Yeah, I like to get up there if it falls on my weekend to not work. I'm actually hoping to get up there this year if it works out. And hopefully maybe grab a couple of guys and do some actual podcast episodes like from up there, you know, because on the grounds, the way they have it set up, when you go up there, it's a whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. The last day of the weekend, they do the inductions. But Saturday is probably it's a lot of guests getting up at the podium, doing lectures. And during that time, a lot of the guys are just walking around. There's media tents, you know, for use if people want to use them, you know, good areas set up to do interviews. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I can pull a couple guys into the tent and actually, you know, do it in person, which would be extremely nice, you know. But boxers are fun to have on because obviously they've got great stories, you know. I mean, especially guys that have been in there with like big names, you know, like you mentioned Ivan Robinson. Ivan Robinson boggles my mind because he beat Arturo Gatti twice, which is no easy feat to do, man. I mean, you know, that guy was always going out on a shield, Gatti. That's why people loved him. I imagine that's why you love him.
Oh yeah, man. I first saw him. Again on ESPN Friday Night Fights when he was on his way up before he won that junior lightweight title first. And that was actually one of the things my grandfather and I did on Friday nights. Like that was one of the things we would love to do is get together, smoke some cigars and watch Arturo Gatti beat the crap out of people.
Yeah. I felt bad, but I had to go there. I mean, in my Ivan Robinson interview, I did ask him, man, like where he kind of stood on the whole, because you know, Arturo died under very mysterious circumstances, very mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's down south somewhere in the tropics. He's vacationing. Suddenly, he's dead from a blunt force trauma, and you know, the wife is on the hook, then she's off the hook. It's suicide. It's not suicide. Very fishy circumstances. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a weird one, man. Especially, I don't want to get too conspiracy theorist.
No, I don't either. But
I mean, he changed his will to leave everything to her just a couple of months before all that. So,
but if you do go on YouTube and Google his son, though, he's well on his way. He's well on his way to being Arturo version 2.0. All the right people are stepping in and showing him and giving him different tools along the way. I've seen Mike Tyson on there working with him. I've seen, you know, other people on there kind of coaching him up, and he already looks really, really nice. I think he's, you know, young, under, not even a teenager, I don't think yet.
Oh, really?
He's got the DNA, though. He's got the DNA. Yeah. If you go into YouTube and just put in Arturo Gatti's son, all kinds of stuff will pop up. So I'd like to know. First of all, hobbies. What kind of stuff do you do like when you're not doing music? Or I mean, obviously it's probably healthy to not focus on it all the time, right? In your downtime, what kind of stuff do you do?
Well, my main thing is I do jujitsu.
Oh, nice.
You probably
what do you think? What is it that you get out of that? Like, what does that do for you? Because obviously, you're not looking to go probably compete in tournaments. You know, you're not worried about your own personal safety. I'm imagining you take it just for the pure art of it.
Yeah, I mean, I have done some tournaments. I've got some medals over here.
Oh shit! Now he's pulling out credentials.
Yeah, but nothing big, dude. I'm definitely a middle-aged guy who just is a hobbyist. But it's I don't know. It's one of these sports that is physically active and physically kind of rough, but it's not so hard that it tears your body up. If you don't want it to, like you can go as gentle, as hard in jiu-jitsu as you want. Whereas like I used to box and kickbox, and that was to me, very different thing. There was no really going that easy. You were still getting punched and kicked, and that there's not a gentle way to knee someone in the guts, you know?
Well, and Matt, who we talked about earlier from Crowbar, he's big in the martial arts too. Extremely big into martial arts. But, it does have those good beneficial sides that I would imagine, though, outside of the physical attributes that you attain from doing it, that it's got to pay off some dividends, especially like when you're like a touring musician and you're out for like weeks or months at a time, like just stretching, focusing on your breathing, self-discipline, all those other good things that come along with it are probably pretty helpful.
Yeah, actually, the breathing is one of the things I really had to learn, and it's been very helpful in a lot of different aspects, man. Because I'm just kind of normally a really high strung guy, and you get I start getting just overwhelmed and like but I start thinking about that breathing, and like I've got to slow it down so I can think clearly. And that a lot of that comes from jiu-jitsu, man. Because someone's on top of you, they're trying to choke you. You start going, you're gonna get yourself choked out, man. Yeah.
You certainly can't panic in that situation. Is there a UFC guy that you followed a lot?
I really like right now, or just throughout
right now in general, either or, both.
So I originally got introduced to like jiu-jitsu and all that stuff by a guy named Eve Edwards, and he fought back in the day. I think he fought in like 10, 12, 15 times he fought in the UFC. And so he was my original trainer way back in the day. I did that for a couple of years, and then I dropped it for a really long time, but I still kept up with the sport. And then my oldest son started taking jiu-jitsu, and his trainer knew Eve really well. And so the trainer was like, hey, I think we have mutual friends. Why aren't you training? And I was like, dude, I haven't trained in 12 years.
Yeah. And
then he kept harassing me like, what else are you going to do with your time? It's like, well, I guess I am just kind of sitting on my ass.
Yeah. If like a way to make you feel completely useless, right? What else you doing with your time?
It was a flippant comment, but it made me go, what am I doing with
myself? What am I really doing? I guess I am.
Xbox.
I guess I'm not that busy. Yeah. So what is the next plan then going forward? Are you guys are you you said you're working on albums now. Any potential release dates or a timetable on Fields of Doom we got in 2022? You guys have a kind of like a rate that you want to be putting these albums out at?
Yeah. So the funny thing about Fields of Doom is we had like, I don't know, maybe 20 songs written for that album, but we had to choose songs. And this is going to sound snarky we have the drummer who played on that album is not the drummer we have now.
Okay. Fair enough.
We parted ways in December. But we couldn't get the old drummer. He's a nice guy, by the way.
No hard feelings.
Yeah. Like a
duly noted.
Yeah. But he just couldn't learn the music fast enough. So we had to go, what are the songs that we think he can learn the quickest so we can get something put out? And so those are the songs that ended up on Fields of Doom. Solid songs. Don't get me wrong. I like the songs.
Yeah.
But we had this huge backlog. John and I, we write music very often, like every couple of weeks I'm writing songs. So and they come in spurts, man. There may be like 3 or 4 days in a row. All of a sudden I write a new song every day, 3 or 4 days in a row. Same with John. So we've got an ambitious release schedule. We've got this album that we started in January, started recording. We got this guy named Esben Williams from the band Monolord.
Okay.
He played drums on the album because we were between drummers for about a month. So he's done tracking all that. And the guitars are done. I just have to put bass on it. So we're looking to release that in the late summer, like August, and that'll be out too.
And it'll be a full length album.
Yeah, it's
okay.
We're paring it down to about 40 minutes. but we originally it was going to be about a 50-minute album. But I talked to John. This is one of the conversations we had. I'm like, dude, do we want to put a 50-minute album together and, you know, it doesn't hit you the whole time, or do we want to do something that's 36 minutes, 38 minutes, and it's just nonstop?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to do. We're paring it down right now because the goal is to get it to about 38 minutes, 40 minutes at the most.
Wow.
Then
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind to think that you have to whittle an album down like back in the 80s when Metallica was making 75-minute albums. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, people's attention span is so fucking nothing that, that you literally got to spoon feed them this fucking shit. You know what I mean? Nobody sits down and immerses themselves in the album experience no more. It's really sad. It's more sad than anything. It makes me angry, but really it's coming from a point of sadness where people just can't say like, drop the needle and fucking just let it play,
Yeah, I really see it in my kids, like, hey, Dad, look at this new album or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's 2 songs. It's 4.5 minutes long. Like, what? Like,
album?
Yeah. So their ideas of what a release is are very different than mine, where I still, like you said, I dropped the needle.
Yeah.
I actually have in this, like my music room, a mattress on the floor right in front of the record player, and I just lay down on the mattress.
Sure.
Listen to the music, and I want to sit there and I want to listen to the whole thing.
Well, I have to think sometimes, man, that like I know people will mention the term concept album or conceptual album or whatever, but I think when you sit down and arranging is a big part of music. I think that a lot of those songs lock into the next one. I think in some way, shape, or form, every album is almost conceptual. You know what I mean? I think the artists very much have a vision as to, okay, we want this one to kind of roll into this one. We want to maybe change the vibe of the album here, maybe go soft here, and then come back with a real banger. You know what I mean? I think it's all pretty, deliberate.
I agree with you, man. I don't think there's any album where someone would just, a self-respecting artist would just go, yeah, here are all the songs. But
yeah.
They don't think about, wait, what do we want to lead off this album with to
right.
kind of give you the vibe of the album? And then if we just stay at that level the whole time, it gets boring, right? No matter what it is. So you've got to have some dynamics. It's got to be a journey. Even if it's like a big theme or a lyrical journey throughout, there's this long story throughout every song. Even when you don't have those elements, the album is still a journey, and you've got to really kind of think about where the placement is of each song on the album.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, good bands know like when they need to step on the gas. Oh, here's a good time. Even back in the 80s, even the hair rock metal bands, they knew, okay, here's where we serve up a ballad. Here's where we give them the rock ballad, Then we come back, our next video's got to be a high octane girls dancing, stuff on fire, I mean, everybody had that seemed to be the formula. If you remember back in the 80s, everybody came out with their banger, and then they had to show the soft side. Then you got the big hair metal rock ballad.
It's the old formula was every 3 songs, right? So you have 2 hard, and the third song is soft.
Yeah.
4 hard songs, and the next song is soft,
Well, and you know why that is, though, man? And I fully believe that this sometimes is the biggest detraction, let me clarify, detraction sometimes in extreme metal music is the fact that, a lot of times it's where the chicks go. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, not to say that girls don't like extreme metal, but I mean, you're certainly going to find more of them at a Poison show than you are at a Cannibal Corpse show. I mean?
Yeah. But I'll tell you this, though, strangely enough, we've played a lot in the region. When we played San Antonio, it was the first metal show that I've ever been a part of where half the audience was women.
Yeah, that's nice.
Half. I had never seen that before. And not only that, and this is going to, they were good looking women. Like, so many of them were really good looking. And our drummer is single, our drummer Spike. And I was like, dude, to be you tonight.
Yeah. Cream of the crop out there.
Yeah.
Are you sure that John Bon Jovi was not on this bill somewhere, hiding in the building? He wasn't on this. They were all there for him?
No, man, you would have thought, right? But no, it was a couple of out-of-town bands and us, and all playing like sludge and doom and stuff.
Now, I realize one of the hardest jobs in a band, and people may laugh, other than mastering your instruments and writing kick-ass songs, but somewhere in the top of that list is giving the band a goddamn name, finding one that isn't taken or whatever, man. Who arrives at Stone Nomads, which is an awesome name, not critiquing the name at all. Killer, looks great on you guys' merch. I love the font that it's written in. I mean, a job well done there. First of all, before I get to you answering that, does somebody in your camp do any of that artwork?
So actually, well, no, not the logo, but what happened was John kind of sketched a logo that looks pretty darn similar to the logo we have. But then we sent it to a friend of ours who's a graphic artist, and we were like, hey, man, we want something like this. And the thing he sent back was nothing like our original vision. We had to go back 3 or 4 times before we got the logo that we currently have, which I really like.
And who names the band? Who came up with that name?
So this is where John always drops the ball, man. When people ask John how we came up with the name, he tells the story of how we whittled it down. Because we came together in a bar and we were like, we each brought names, and then the process was I'm gonna strike one of the names from your list that I don't like, and then you strike one from my list until we got to the last 2, and then we had to just decide which we want. So he tells the process of narrowing it down, but the actual origin of the name he always forgets, which I think is a much better story.
Okay.
So the stone part, half of it is his family was all stonemasons back in Europe.
Okay.
He's a Polish guy. Well, I mean, he was born in America, but his grandfather came to the United States from Poland during World War II, kind of getting away from the Nazis, right? And so his grandfather comes to the U.S., continues the stonemason thing, and then John, he's not a stonemason, but he's a stone salesman.
Okay.
And so then we actually started a business together years ago, a stone importing business. And so that's where we get the stone from.
I see a theme here. Yeah, there's a theme developing.
Right. And then the Nomads thing, partially it is his tribute to his grandfather's escape from Europe. But another part of it is we've kind of lived all over the US, man. And I've lived in Houston quite a while now. But when you look at the map, like the moves I've made, I just crisscross the US, man. Oregon, Florida, North Carolina, Louisiana, And so we just had that kind of nomadic theme in our lives. So Stone Nomads, that's how we came up with it.
Man. So there actually really was. Now, what would happen in the event that you would go online? Because I don't know the logistics of this stuff, but I do know that there are bands that can be out at the same time. I don't know if it has to do with if you're physically making money off the product that you have to license it and copyright it. But what if you would have looked on there and saw somebody else working as the Stone Nomads? Then what?
Then we would have had to go on with number 2 on the list, which I don't remember what it was. But there were a bunch of things that had to do with stone. Like there was at one point we were like, we should be the Black Stone Throne, and we were like all pumped up about that. And I was like, wait, isn't there a band called Black Stone Cherry? That's
there is
damn close.
There is. Yeah,
that one's out.
Well, you guys could have put an R at the end and just made it Stoner Nomads.
Yeah, you know what? There was a radio show here in Texas that played us and consistently said our name wrong as Stoner Nomads.
Yeah. I mean, it still would have worked. I mean, so you mentioned that the guy who plays drums for you, Spike, who's also killer on this album. Who gives him that nickname, by the way? That's not on his birth certificate, is it, Spike?
Dude, I have no idea what this guy's real name is.
And you're in a band with him. That's scary.
It's wild. It's funny because we play these shows together. We're driving in the van together, and we have all these conversations. We've gotten to know each other quite well, I would say.
Not well enough, apparently.
Yeah, well, you think someone you sit down and you're like, all right, and what are your views on politics and religion, and you can get through that conversation without killing each other. Get along pretty well. And so, I guess it was just a few weeks ago, we were playing a festival in Austin, and I was like, hey, Spike, I don't know your real name. And he goes, yep.
That's it. That's how I want to keep it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess you are Spike. And I'll just I won't go there.
I'd have my records department do a background check, man, but I don't have a records department. But I mean, it might be worth. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure he's. But I'll tell you what, though, man. As far as the sound on this album, anybody that you give a shout out to, a studio or a producer, like who's helping you guys get this sound outside of you guys?
Us.
It's you guys producing everything yourself.
Mixed, mastered, recorded. Yep.
Amazing. Is there somebody taking the reins on that, or are you all pretty proficient with the technical side of it?
I'm the slacker, man. John and Spike are really good at that stuff.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate record, like all the editing and everything. I used to kind of dabble in that.
Right.
I hate it.
Well, you had mentioned earlier about the creative process, though. Like how songs could come at any time. But if you're home and you need to write stuff, or you guys are really working to come up with stuff for an album, you got any kind of like a routine at home, a room you got to escape to, and an atmosphere you got to set, or do ideas just literally come to you throughout the day? Like, how do you go about it? You jotting down using the phone?
Yeah, actually, that has been the best tool for me, man. And as I mentioned earlier, like I was really late coming into dealing with social media and stuff. I was a really late adopter of the smartphone as well.
Yeah,
I'm sort of a Luddite, man. I just technology is weird and
strange. Over my head too, man. I know.
So, but once I finally embraced this smartphone that I'm talking to you on, the recording part of this iPhone, it was revolutionary for me, because I could have an idea and I could be in the car and I'm like, da, 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 just like I have a little idea and I record that. What happens most of the time is I'll just be at home and a riff will come to me and I'll get the guitar out, or the bass out, whatever, and I turn the record on and I play the riff, and then I save it and I come back to it like maybe in a couple of days, and I listen to it a few times, and then kind of like we were talking about, when you put together an album, you want to have this journey, right?
Right.
When you hear a riff, or when I play a riff, I kind of start imagining this journey in my head, and I usually visualize like a story, and I'm like, what music would fit with this story?
Right.
Which is weird, because I end up writing the lyrics last, but I visualize the story and like a soundtrack to the story in my head.
Are you pretty much the primary lyric writer, or do you get help with the lyrics too from the other guys?
I get help. John and I pretty much split the songwriting about 50-50. So
okay.
When it comes to the lyrics, a couple of times we've written lyrics to each other's songs, like the song Fiery Sabbath.
Yeah.
I wrote lyrics to that, but John wrote almost all the music to that. But he just, for some reason, he couldn't get a story going. He just really didn't have a theme. So I was like, oh, I'll take it over. I'll give it a shot.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you brought up the social media and getting better at it, and honing your skills at it more. I am very much in the same boat. And we've raved about some of the things that it allows us to do, but I also hear the same story from a lot of musicians on here about like what it's also done crippling the music business and album sales. So on that note, man, I mean, how does a band go about nowadays? And is it something that you worry about? I mean, obviously you have to keep a day job or whatever, but is making it financially, and especially when you're playing extreme metal, is it even impossible?
Yeah, to make a living?
Yeah. I mean, that was always the big goal when we were rock stars as kids, right? I want to be a rock star when I grow up,
Yeah, and I mean, that's still, I want to make a living at it, doing this just like exclusively, but
right.
I don't know if it's so much the social media that's killed it as much as just
the streaming sites, I mean, like streaming platforms and stuff. I mean,
that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like the radio where you hear a tidbit of a song or one song and you're like, I'm going to go out and buy that album.
Right.
I could listen to any album in the world at any moment.
Yep.
And now I'm the type of person that I'll get on the streaming site, I'll listen to an album, and if I like the album, I'm gonna go buy a physical copy of it.
Yes,
that's me, right? But especially younger kids, you know, the 20 some, I say younger kids, the 18 to 24,
yeah,
do not buy physical music. So yeah, those streaming sites they don't give you anything. You know, like you get thousands and thousands of streams, and then you get a check in the mail for $1.75.
yeah. Split
like,
that a couple ways. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll never forget, like, the very first royalty check I got was $2.37. And this was,
wow. Honey, guess what? We're gonna retire.
yeah, dude, you can't even buy a beer. You know? Much less a retirement account. You know.
Well, it's very interesting people's take on it too, because obviously it's cut seriously into the revenue that a musician can make. You know what I mean? And I've explained on here countless times, me being not somebody that's ever worked in the music business, I work in healthcare. So I guess me being naive, and I've explained this before, somebody will pop up on the other end of my screen. Wow, somebody I've loved and admired for 20, 30 years. And you automatically are just taken back when they say that they have a day job. You know, it kind of throws you for a loop. Like, wow, how is this possible that I've been listening to you for 30 years, putting out what I consider genius albums? I guess, if you're, like I said before, if you're extreme metal, the commercial success might not be there, but it just boggles my mind, though. You know what I mean? How hard it is just to make a living as a musician.
Yeah. But I take some comfort in there's still some success stories out there, right? Like,
yeah.
I was just listening to an interview with Kirk from Crowbar, I don't know, a couple months ago. And he talked about, oh, yeah, finally, in the last 10 years, I can do music full time. And I'm doing the math. I'm like, okay, he's like 55, maybe.
Yeah.
So when he hit 45, that's when he was able to just drop everything and just play music. I'm like, well, that means there's still some hope for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And even that's, and it's amazing because, and I guess maybe in our secular little world of being, metal fans, you know what I mean? Maybe we just look at these albums as seminal albums because they're important to us in a genre that we love. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I look at somebody like Crowbar and I think, how the fuck all these killer albums are, but then again, that's the naive side of my brain, but it's also not, okay, he didn't put on an album with Living on a Prayer on it. You know what I mean? Like he's not in John Bon Jovi money or, Vince Neil money. You know, I mean, it's.
Yeah. It is shocking. I have the same reaction that you do. You know, when you find out that Matt Pike from High on Fire is selling some of his T-shirts this month so he can make rent. And I'm like,
I know. Yeah, that's pretty sad. And I've had varying opinions on here of people, and most of the ones that hit it on the head seem to have a good grasp of what should have gone on way back when, where like the record companies, really should have got in on the ground floor and really harnessed this and figured out some way to get the proper revenue, out to the musicians and harness the power of the internet, so to speak. But before all these illegal streaming sites got out there, I mean, it's a shame that. That it couldn't have been, I don't know, controlled better.
Yeah, a lot of it, you think about big corporations, they're successful, and so they think they know everything, and a lot of times it becomes stagnant. Like, why didn't Budweiser see the craft beer scene coming 20 years ago? They should have. And not only that, because they had all the money, they should have been able to make the best IPAs and stouts and all that, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with the record companies or newspapers. The New York Times should have seen that all the news was going to go onto Twitter and those things. They saw that it was coming up. They should have pulled their resources and started to get ahead of that. But success often breeds like stagnation and apathy, man, because you're like, or maybe it's just arrogance. Like, I'm successful. I know what's going on.
Right.
Tell the people what they want. Well, it doesn't work that way.
So in order to get Stone Nomad world domination here, what we're waiting for is just a phone call. We need like Pepper Keenan, pick up the phone, or these guys are ready, packed and ready to go.
Oh yeah, man. I keep a go bag ready. If you give me a call, I'll just grab the bag. Got my toothbrush, toothpaste.
All kidding aside. all kidding aside, though, are you guys all in virtuous, without knowing what you guys do, in stages of your career where you have jobs that are understanding and afford you the luxury should you have to go away for a tour?
So John has, well, okay, let me take a step back. Spike is a professional musician. That's all he does.
Okay.
So he's been on tour multiple times. Like, so yeah, if we said, hey, we're putting together a tour, he's in a bunch of different bands. So as long as it doesn't conflict with one of his other bands,
okay,
we're ready to go. John has the most flexible schedule. He does sales. And so he can just take a couple of weeks off, man. And
yeah,
me, I have the least flexible schedule. I have more of a 9-to-5 schedule, but I work in education, man.
Yeah.
So got the summers, a good chunk of the summers off. I got Christmas break and all that. So
it's a big difference. What's the biggest difference you're seeing in kids nowadays, man? Are you at liberty to divulge? Have kids gotten more rotten over the years, or are we keeping them on a good track? It's been crazy. I mean, it's been really crazy. Are you well? I'll ask you a more poignant question. That one seems to be a little bit loaded. I mean, you know, but you work in an actual schoolhouse, a school?
Yes.
You know, obviously with all the school shooters, you know, all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world, has it changed the way you think about going to work every day?
Not every day, but I'm sort of a weird guy, man. When I make a decision, the decision is done and I don't ever look back. So like when I decided to get married, I decided to get married to my wife when, I don't know, we'd been dating like a month. I was like, I'm going to marry this girl, and that decision's now we move on. Yeah. So to answer your question, I think it is well, let me take a step back. School shootings have been happening since American schools were opened.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to the 18th, 17th, 18th century. So that's right. The frequency is definitely increased.
Right.
And there was one when I first moved to Houston as a child, well, I guess a teenager. There was a school shooting at one of the schools like right next to mine. So, dude, when I became a teacher, and it was after Columbine, and I was just like, if something happens, I am going to do my best to defend the students.
Right.
And then I just made that decision. It sounds fatalistic. Like if I die, I die.
Right.
So I don't worry about it every day. You know, it's not something I think about, but that I guess that's a possibility. And I've already made my peace with it. And when I made that decision, I told my wife, I was like, you need to understand this. If there's an active shooter in my building, I'm not going to be running from that.
Right.
Not because I'm some hero, but because I definitely don't see myself as that. I'm just some middle-aged dad. But like, if I can throw myself on somebody and save some others, then that's what I'm going to do.
Well, let's also remember that Liam Neeson was just some middle-aged dad in Taken. You know what I mean? And he was able to wreak quite a bit of havoc. You know, I mean,
he had some special skills. A very particular set of skills. He did. But so as somebody that works at the level of education that you do, and this is an interesting point because my mother also just recently retired from teaching as well. And it's something I've often gave thought to. Is there any way that you see from the inside out that schools could help assist in cutting down that number of school shooters? Obviously, we want to put the onus on the parents. All this stuff starts at home. They have to be on board first and foremost. But are you guys are you handcuffed on the school side of things? I mean, you can get Morgan Freeman to come in there, you know, as he did on like Lean on Me and just chain the doors and attack everybody with baseball bats. But I don't think you want your principal doing that. Well, I volunteered to do that, but they said no. So.
They frowned upon.
Yeah. Man, that's such a really difficult question. It's really complex.
Yeah.
Here's what I say about it. And being in Texas, this is going to be really unpopular. I think there is some gun control stuff we have to put in place.
Yeah.
The Texas answer is give everybody more guns.
Right.
And I just don't think that's proper, man. Oh, you there? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to plug my phone in. It's running low on batteries. But I think we have to put more gun control stuff in place. I think we have to do a better job of mental health care in the United States, man. I was listening to a lecture the other day where someone said in the year 1950, I'm going to get statistical and it's going to be boring.
That's all right.
But yeah, in the year 1950, there were like 113 mental health beds for every 100,000 people in America, right? And that's like open to the public, not like some sort of private. These were public hospital beds for someone going. And nowadays, I think it was 150 per 100,000, and nowadays there's like 13 per 100,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I've certainly seen the healthcare field change. I'm a nurse, so obviously healthcare, especially post COVID, has gotten to be, a lot more understaffed, people more, and I also don't think post COVID that there's a lot of people banging down the door to get into it like there once was. I mean, everybody used to be able to get into, everybody was always getting into nursing or some field of healthcare. So I think it's scared some people off, but I mean, it's been a tough slog working in healthcare, but the educational system is obviously, as you said before, it's unpredictable. I mean, like you've got lots of kids with lots of different backstories from lots of different backgrounds coming in there. And, I mean, is it hard sometimes? Is it hard sometimes when you're working with kids to, like how much do you feel comfortable being able to like mentor a kid? I mean, do kids even take to being mentored? I mean, are there students that you could sometimes, talk to, or is that even something that don't even want school faculty to do anymore?
Oh, I think they definitely want teachers to mentor students, man.
Yeah.
Most of my experience is working in high poverty areas too.
Yeah.
And those kids need it. Like, it was a rarity. It's been a rarity that I have a student who has like both parents at home.
Yeah.
Or even a parent at home.
Yeah.
So often it's, I don't know who my dad is. Oh, my mom's in jail right now on drug charges. So those kids need people.
Yeah.
That they need a consistent and stable adult in their lives, showing them that there is more to life than what they see immediately around them. Because, even the kids who, let's say they have two working parents, in most of the schools where I've taught, the parents might have been like a dishwasher in the restaurant and then a maid, and so the kid thinks, well, there are two things that can happen. One, there's this ceiling they think of, like, well, this is the job that I'm going to do and it's going to suck and all that. Or the opposite of that is where they go, well, I see my parents working and they don't make shit. And they struggle every single day. So why am I going to go do this shitty job?
Yeah. Use it as motivation. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we as educators have to do. Like open the world a little bit to them and show them there are opportunities. It's hard. It's not like it's not like it's not going to be a struggle. But at the same time, there are opportunities out there. It's getting harder. I mean, if you look at the amount of kids now, or rather young adults who live with their parents, that's on the rise big time.
Yeah.
And, it's
so. Are you somebody that teaches one particular subject?
Well, okay. So actually, what I do now, man, if we're going to get very specific, I am a teacher of teachers. I train teachers, but I do it within the school building. So I train them how to write like lesson plans, how to it's basic pedagogy. Like I teach them how to question students, things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which actually frees me up a lot to spend more time with certain students, like the behavior problem kids.
Right.
Fighting and cursing and throwing chairs. I get to come in as an outside guy and be kind of the cool friend.
I was just gonna ask how much of the students / faculty are aware of what you do musically.
Oh, I'm pretty open about it, man. So everybody knows that I'm in a band. Well, most people know I'm in a band. A lot of the kids know, so it's not a secret at all. And so it's one of those things, like people are complex.
Yeah,
we have many aspects of our personality. So I show the kids, like, hey, this on the weekends, this is one thing I do, but also dad, and you'll see pictures of me on Facebook with my daughters and my son.
Yeah.
You know, like a full life is varied, you know.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, me and my wife have several grandchildren, and you know, we're extremely hands on. You know, we got them over all the time, and it is getting to like relive that all over again, but minus the shit we don't want to do, like diapers, you know, stuff like that or whatever. But you know, that's all the other fringe benefits that come along with it. But so okay, so we've got down how we get that. We got down how we get Stone Nomads domination. We're waiting for a phone call from somebody. Must call up Jude or John, right? You guys would be the ones to contact. So if you are a sludge / extreme metal / any kind of band looking to take out a kick-ass band, the boys are ready to go.
Yeah,
right.
Always, man. Give us a call.
Packed and ready. Summers are extremely good for Jude over here. He doesn't have anything to do, right? I mean, just sitting around waiting for a call. That's all, man. Brother's trying to eat. That's all.
That's it. Then you got to hustle, right?
Yeah. Listen, man, it's been a real blast talking to you, though, man. I knew it would be, but I mean, it was very enjoyable. Hopefully, we can stay in touch and we can do this again when you got some more stuff out there cooking, or even when you don't have anything fucking cooking.
Yeah, man. I had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you inviting me on. And
yeah,
saying the kind words about the album, man. Dude, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and before I go, I don't know how familiar you are with baseball, man, but Keith Hernandez must know from the '86 Mets if you are any relation to Doug Sisk.
No, I am not, man.
But you are familiar with who I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, yes, the baseball player.
Yeah,
and so '86. I'm not living in Houston then, but that was the closest baseball team to where I lived in Louisiana. So I watched the Astros.
We had to get through them that year. Yeah, we did have to get through them that year.
Yep. So
would have been easier. It would have been easier if Mike Scott wasn't cheating and scuffing the baseball, though. Allegedly, I always got to put the caveat allegedly in there because I don't want any.
Don't you talk trash about old Mike Scuff, man? Come on,
Mike Scuff. See, even you know. That's we got him in the end, though, man. We got him in the end, but I mean, it wasn't easy. None of that year was easy. I mean, the World Series wasn't easy. It was all just a fucking. I don't know why we were so dominant that year, and then we had to fight constantly in the playoffs. Crazy. But the ground ball by Mookie prevailed.
Oh, yeah.
And that was my guy. That was always like my favorite player, man. But, do you call it a hit or do you call it just like good luck or an error? You know what I mean? It's not like my favorite player really struck a fucking fantastic hit. You know what I mean? But it is an indelible moment in the history of baseball, though. So, I mean, so not related to Doug Sisk. Okay, that's good.
No, not that I know of.
Not that, yeah. Well, yeah. Are you good at blowing saves? Yeah, seriously, man. It was really fun talking to you, man. And definitely keep me in the loop of what's going on. And when I get your episode up, I'll send you the link to share as you will. Yeah.
I definitely will share it, man.
Yeah. Thanks so much, brother. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Good talking to you, brother.
It was great.
All right. Later, Jude.
Later, man.
Friends, that is Jude Sisk from the doom sludge stoner metal band Stone Nomads. Do go check out their release, Fields of Doom, from back in 2022. You heard me earlier in the interview hail it as a masterpiece, and it is. Whether or not that style or genre of music is your thing or not, this is a masterpiece. Fantastic instrumentation. Even mention the instrumental that's on there, but just beyond that, fantastic work from the boys, man. Just a great sound. You heard them say they did it all themselves, down to the producing and the mastering. Go check them out. Stone Nomads. And the 2022 debut album was Fields of Doom. I don't know what the fuck I said before. Hopefully that's what I said. I hope I didn't say Fields of Dreams. Thinking of the Kevin Costner movie. Don't go see that. Well, do go see it. It was a great movie. But here we're talking about Fields of Doom, goddammit. I'm getting sidetracked here. But great guy, man. Real honor having him on. That is Jude Sisk, bass player, vocalist for the Stone Nomads. And I implore the audience out there, go check these guys out, man. They are throwing down. If you like that good NOLA sound, those great New Orleans bands that we mentioned, Corrosion of Conformity, Down, Crowbar, certainly a lot of elements of Pentagram. If you're into what Bobby and the boys do with Pentagram, go check these guys out. Stone Nomads, they're doing it. They're doing it the right way, man. And he's also out there educating our youth. So big salute to that, man. Anybody going out there, man, and trying to make a difference in the young people's lives, man. Hats off to Jude, man. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And as always, I remind you to take it easy and keep it sleazy.